Brocast is back, baby.
This Brewcast episode is brought to you by the Brewcast Store. Explore a store filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with Brewcast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Visit now brew-cast.com/store. Link below.
Back with the fire, can't you see the flames? From Deutschland steps comes the Brewcast name. Voices like thunder breaking all the chains. Unleash the fury like a runaway train.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another Brewcast episode. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please ring the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast recommends to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Brewcast also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where I upload shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now, Brewcast on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Links in the description below.
Here we thrive, we survive!
Hey there, Brewcast fans, welcome back to another Brewcast episode. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. By doing all of those things, you're gonna be then running to win one amazing giveaway at the end of this month. I mean, you might win, who knows? You need to comment, like, and subscribe. The winner will win either a cap from the Brewcast Store or a mug from the Brewcast Store. It's a surprise, but it's a surprise from the Brewcast Store. It's a worldwide giveaway, so no matter where you are in the world, we're gonna make sure to deliver this beautiful prize just to you. So make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and tune in at the end of the month. That means at the end of September 2025, we're going to announce the winner of the giveaway. So stay tuned. All right, let's talk about our guest. His name is Russell Van Brocklen. How are you doing, my friend?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Thank you so much for being here. And I must say, Russell, I'm gonna say for certain, you were the most well-prepared guest that I ever had. That's impressive.
Well, if you're going to do something right, what got me is when I joined Podmatch about 7 months ago. And what's shocking is I found out recently I'm the #1 guest on the system out of like 4,800. And you just got to come prepared. You got to listen to past episodes. You got to really look things up. And if not, how are you going to have a good conversation?
Yeah, well said, well said. You know what? And I like that. I like that spirit, man, because I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I have some guests over. I won't name any names, don't worry. it just feels like they don't wanna be here. I ask a question, hey, how are you doing, bro? And you're like, fine. I was like, okay, is everything okay?
Could you be any more excited?
But you know what? I think it's just a personality thing. It's not that they're not excited. It's just they don't have the conversation skills, I guess. Even though they want to have a podcast chat, which is fine. I don't mind. It's cool. At the end of the day, it's always cool. It's always fun. We always learn something new. Russell, so another reason why I'm also impressed is you told me that you're a pro user from ChatGPT, right? What was the name of the tier?
Oh, yeah. As a dyslexic, AI has been a lifesaver for me because even though I overcame my writing concern, it's still hard for me. So last December, when they're doing their Christmas thing for a couple of weeks, they came out with a pro account. And Sam said it was going to be $200 a month, 10 times more than normal. I bought it that same day.
Oh my God.
All right. And within 24 hours, I drafted out 20 research articles I've been planning on doing for literally the last 20 years. All right. And I haven't looked back. It's been absolutely fantastic.
You told me that you researched like how to cure cancer. Is that what you told me? I don't
No, I
remember.
mean, to give you an example, we were talking about how when I was doing research on your show,
Yes.
5 has normal, thinking, and pro. The pro is what I like to call kind of like the PhD model. If you were to go and like I use it to come up with innovative ways to really add things to improve dyslexia writing and reading issues.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that is that if you're going to work on how do I cure cancer, that's the model you would use. Unless they have something more evolved for for that specific. But it you ask it to do anything, it thinks for 10 minutes minimum.
10 minutes researching and combining
Yes.
answers. It's insane. Like the things that he must come up with must be extraordinary. As far as I know, they're using AI for biology research, like scientific research. It's a thing now. I cannot wait for the day we're gonna find a new elements for the scientific table. Isn't that like what Iron Man did in the movie Iron Man? Like it's happening.
Right. Right. And I'm training the future scientists who will probably do something like that. There are huge advantages for being dyslexic. And when it comes to artificial intelligence, I run two at a time. I run one on the app and one on the website, and then I'm doing something else in between times while it's thinking forever. But just to show you how dyslexics have a kind of a unique advantage in this area, this is the most popular book in my field. It's called Overcoming Dyslexia by Sally Shaywitz, medical doctor from Yale, and they did brain scans. This is the second edition, Overcoming Dyslexia, page number 78, figure 23. That's dyslexia.
So for those who are
All right.
just listening, he's showing image of a book, actually two images in a book, and those images are images of brains, and each.
Right. Look at the back part of the typical brain. Do you see how the back part of your brain has all this massive neural activity,
Uh-huh.
and mine has next to nothing?
Okay.
Okay, now do you see how the front part of my brain is about 2.5 times more active than yours?
What that means.
Okay, but do you see that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. What does that mean? So, according to Yale, that front part deals with two areas. Articulation followed by word analysis. So what I did to illustrate how powerful this is I decided for my first research experiment, which I actually got the New York State Senate to fund after years of preliminary research on it. What we did is we took at the Averill Park Central School District, right outside of Albany, New York, we took their most motivated and their most intelligent high school juniors and seniors, 11th and 12th graders. And we took, and they all had reading and writing skills in the 7th grade or 8th grade level. And then we took their best special ed teacher at the time, her name was Susan Ford. And for one class period a day for the school year, about 180 sessions or so, we gave them the graduate records exam analytical writing assessment to work on. That's the writing test for going into graduate school. They started out, most of them scored in the 0 percentile. At the conclusion, they scored in the average range of entering graduate school students. They all went on to college. They all graduated, grade point averages of 2.5 to 3.6. Cost to New York State was less than $900 a student. Compared to the best dyslexic college at the time, we were 3x as successful for less than 1/10 of the cost, for less than 1/25 of the effort. That's how powerful this is.
Ooh. Wow. Wow, this is a whole new world for me, man. I had no idea. So what's so different about the dyslexic brain? I mean, you just showed us the image, but why it is like that? It happens at birth? It's a genetic.
It's genetic, yeah.
Okay, so but it comes from the family tree?
Yes.
Okay. Wow, I know that ADHD and autism are considered neurodivergencies, right? Is dyslexia also considered a neurodivergency?
I'm going to step away from autism because there is some characteristics, but I'm a much more of an expert on ADD and ADHD. Imagine ADD and ADHD, the treatment, the same thing applies. just think of dyslexia as much more severe with reading and writing. It's the most severe form. Consider ADD and ADHD kind of like mild dyslexia in its effect.
I see. Wow, man. So it affects primarily reading and writing.
Well, that's the symptoms,
Oh, those
but
are the
that's not what
symptoms.
dyslexia is.
So what is
Okay,
dyslexia?
so what dyslexia really is I want you to imagine, as the field thinks right now, because just so you know, I have the worst case of dyslexia people have ever seen. I had a 20-hour neuropsychological evaluation done by a State University of New York distinguished professor, Dr. Holichka, about the best one in the State University of New York system at the time. And I have a first grade reading and writing level when my system's not working. When it is working, it's at the grad level. So what's going on? If you ask, well, first of all, because it's kind of a complicated answer, but let me put it to you in ways that people can understand for the real world, not an academic discussion. So when I took what I just told you and I presented that in New York City at the New York City branch of the International Dyslexia Association in 2006, I thought I did something amazing. I thought I was done. I was wrong because the teachers asked, okay, does this work for not the most brilliant and the most motivated kids? Does this work for your average dyslexic student? And I said, not at all. Well, how are you going to take what you've done and transfer it on to other dyslexics? Typical students, they said, oh, okay, that took me a number of years. So what I did is I went back, and Yale said the front part of the brain deals with articulation followed by word analysis. And I said, what happens if we swap that to word analysis followed by articulation? All right, so if your audience has dyslexic kids in elementary school or maybe even middle school, one of the primary complaints I got teaching special ed teachers this in New York City for the past 10 years is that they would tell me constantly they have students in elementary school who appear to be writing randomly placed misspelled words. How do we fix that? Well, if you're rich, if you're Bill Gates' grandkid, you're going to use an Orton Gillingham multi-sensory structured language approach where you see it, touch it, hear it. And the schools run about 75,000 a year. And if you go in and fourth grade or above, takes about 4 to 5 years to correct everything. House money. It's like, how do we do this a lot faster and for nothing of a cost? So here's how we do that. We switch it over to word analysis followed by articulation. And let's just try to pick a student. Do you know a dyslexic elementary school kid?
No, maybe I met some, but I know. Let's say no.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you my standard example. Her name is Sarah. She was 10 years old at the time in fifth grade with a second grade reading and writing ability. Sarah's writing randomly placed misspelled words. So how do we get her to first write a basic 3-word sentence? We're going to focus on word analysis first, and then to get her writing up to the end of second, beginning third grade level, we're going to add because, and then we're going to use articulation. So word analysis followed by articulation separated by because. See how and just so your audience understands, I'm showing the dyslexic brain again. We're going to use that overactive front part of the brain that's 2.5 times overactive. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is have Sarah type out on a laptop computer, not an iPad, not an iPhone, not handwriting, an actual laptop, an actual keyboard, usually on a laptop. Hero plus sign, what are we talking about? You're going to type that first. She's going to copy it. Default writing strategy of copying, Professor James Collins, Strategies for Struggling Writers. So it's hero plus sign, what are we talking about? We're going to swap hero for Sarah. Sarah plus sign, what are we talking about? We're going to swap what are we talking about for swimming. We have a list of 10 likes and 10 dislikes. Her favorite thing is swimming. So we got Sarah plus sign swimming. See how we got there?
I'm so confused. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me go back and simplify. We have you type out hero plus sign, what are we talking about?
Okay.
Then we're going to swap out hero for Sarah. Sarah plus sign, what are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to swap out what are we talking about for the first thing on her list of likes, which is swimming. Sarah plus sign swimming.
Mm-hmm.
See how we got there?
Mm-hmm.
Now what we need to do is the plus sign is the visualization default strategy from the same book and author. It indicates we need to add words, subtract words, or move words around. So in this case, we need to add a word to get a basic 3-word sentence. Good so far?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the plus sign needs to be replaced with like or dislike. So just to repeat, swimming is Sarah's favorite activity. She's on the swim team. She's an assistant swim coach for the little kids. She gets in the pool every chance she can get. Okay, so Sarah plus sign swimming. I'm going to ask you some of the easiest questions in the world. If you add it, you have to make this work, you have to answer them exactly. They're the simplest questions you will ever be asked.
Oh my God, I'm
You think I
sweating.
can fool you?
I
Okay, are you ready for this?
not really, but let's go.
Okay. So we got Sarah plus sign swimming. We need to replace the plus sign with a word. Okay, so here's my question. Does Sarah like or dislike swimming?
I guess likes?
Okay, replace that word with Sarah, replace the plus sign. What's the sentence?
Sarah likes swimming.
Yes, but that's not what I asked.
I'm sorry, man. This is like making math at the same time we're talking. I'm horrible at math.
No, you did what every educated person does. I asked if Sarah like or dislike swimming. You said likes. And then you replaced it in the sentence so it's correct. There should be an S at the end of it.
Oh my God, I'm getting
You see how you
dyslexia.
Right, but the thing is, you added the S and you made it a correct sentence because that's what educated people do. Sarah's dyslexic. She doesn't know how to add the S.
Mm-hmm.
She would have said, I said, you like or dislike. She would have said like, 'cause that's what I asked. Then she would have replaced the plus sign. Sarah likes swimming. But then how do we get her to add the S? Okay. If you're rich and you're using that Wharton approach, you're going to do seeing, touching, hearing, feeling, every sense you can imagine. And they use that to get her to add the S. It's really complicated. I'm going to show you how to do it real simple. We would ask, because Sarah liked swimming. Then I would ask Sarah to read what she wrote out loud. And then I would ask Sarah, does that sound generally correct to you? And she would say, no. I would say, fix it. Sarah likes swimming. It's that simple. Does it sound generally correct? No, fix it. And she retypes it. Then we practice that for 10 likes and 10 dislikes until she gets it perfect. Do you see how like and dislike is a very simple form of word analysis?
Yeah.
So now we're using that overactive front part of the brain. Now we're going to go because and reason one. Give me a simple reason why Sarah likes swimming.
Because it's fun.
Because it's fun. Just about everybody says that. So now we got Sarah likes swimming because it's fun. But now we got probably a whole mess of misspelled words. How do we fix that? What we do is we tell Sarah before she puts the period down, she can ask any question. And she just has to retype the word that she made a mistake in. Like she could ask, did I spell fun correctly? Probably not. You type it out, she types it out. Okay, but once she puts the period down, if there's a grammatical mistake, and I mean a major grammatical mistake, or a spelling mistake, she has to retype the entire sentence. So what does she do? She drops the period, and there's spelling mistakes. So now she has to retype, and she said, I'm not going to make that mistake. She retypes it typically between 3 and 13 times. And what you tell her is to help lessen the annoyance, because she gets annoyed with herself. She keeps making the same mistake. You made a silly mistake or a silly error. But as she's going through it, she's concentrating deeper and deeper. I'm not going to make that mistake. And she makes it again, sometime around 10 to 13 times. She's concentrating so incredibly hard that sometimes you see sweat coming down her forehead. All right. And that deep concentration is where the magic happens. That's where finally the brain starts to autocorrect. And she gets done probably around 10 to 13 times. She did it correctly. You do 10 likes and 10 dislikes until it's perfect. Then because reason one and reason two. another 20 times, then reason 1, reason 2, and reason 3 until it's perfect. Now, unlike Orton Gillingham and every other program out there, in this case, the older the child is, the quicker they will pick it up. So a 5th grader can do this in a matter of a couple of weeks to a month or so. A 2nd grader might take several months. But what I just showed you will take the kid from writing at the kindergarten level and increase that to the end of 2nd, beginning 3rd grade level. So about a 2 grade point level jump in a matter of a month or a couple of months. And here's the next big thing. Yes, I'm not doing reading, because here's my big secret. If you can write it, you can read it.
Just
If you can write it, you can read it.
one quick question. What's the name of this technique?
I simply call the process the writing methods.
The processing of writing methods.
No, I just call the title of the process the writing methods.
The writing methods. Okay.
Yeah, like Sam Altman and at OpenAI, I'm really good at coming up with bad names.
I mean, it works. It works.
But the simple idea again, if a student can write the word spelled correctly, they can read it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what I just showed you, do you see how like and dislike is a very simple form of word analysis,
Mm-hmm.
and apt because the reasons are a form of articulation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you asked, what really is dyslexia? I just kind of showed you that's how we get past, but that's rule number 3. Rule number 1 is if I'm going to get typical students to do any of this, remember, the motivation just ain't there. It's just not, it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
We have to work inside their speciality, their area of extreme interest and ability. And how you find that out, it's a Saturday morning, tell them they can do anything they want, go anywhere, do anything. What is it? That's their speciality. Okay. And basically, let me give you an example of that. This will shock you, but for those who are listening, I'm showing you a book that is the most common one that I use when I do this privately. It's Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination. All 1,000 pages of this sucker. All right. That's the most common one that students ask for. Why? Have you ever been to Disneyland or the Magic Kingdom in Disney World?
Oh, hell yeah. I love it. Yeah.
When you walk in, you're in Main Street, USA. Do you feel the Disney magic?
Now not so much as an adult, but of course, yeah, I felt it before.
Yeah, when you're a kid. There are 2 universal themes that make up the Disney magic. And the kids are like, I want to know what it is. I said, okay, well, you're going to have to read the book to find out. All right. And this shocks parents of just how it's a light switch. Now they're turning on motivation because they keep hearing, our kids won't do it. Well, if you're inside their specialty, they will. You step out. No, they won't. This is just an example for the kids who love Disney. So when you walk into Main Street to Disneyland or Main Street USA, that's based on Marceline, Missouri, where Walt was between age 5 and 10, and he spent the rest of his life trying to recreate that experience. So when you're looking at the 2 universal themes that make up this Disney magic, to begin it, I would say we're going to go to Marceline, Missouri. That section, it's about 3,500 words. It's written at the 9th, 10th grade level. My kids are normally starting off, I'll give this to a 10-year-old reading at the 2nd grade level. What I would have them do is listen to their audiobook while following along with their finger in the real book, trying to answer a specific question. What does Walt like? What does he not like? What does he want to do? And if they find a word they don't know, which is like every freaking word at this point, I have them circle the word with a pencil because they do a lot of erasing. I have them type out the word, then go to Merriam-Webster's online dictionary and they pick out their definition, and then they type that out. So here's my question for you. If you want to know a word permanently, how many times do you have to type out the word and the definition until you know it?
Actually, that's a very interesting question. I'm not sure if I'm going to give you the answer you're looking for, but because I moved a lot, right? I lived in France, Germany. I had to learn a lot of new languages, and the way I do it is specifically I try to link the word I'm learning to something else that sounds kind of the same but sounds funny. For example, So I create a tiny little crazy story in my head for each little word, and this like an impossible scenario, and that makes me learn the word. So that's how I do it. I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for.
Yeah, but yeah, you have to do it. It's a number of times. It might be 5, 10, 20, whatever the number
It
is.
is. It
It's a
is a
lot of
couple. It's a
times.
couple of times. Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Well, if you're dyslexic, it might be 5, 10, 20. I don't know. It's some number.
Yeah.
All right. And I can hear the parents, and the teachers saying the same thing now. My kid won't do it. I said, if you're in the speciality, they will. Remember, these kids really want to know what makes up the Disney magic. They're kind of Disney fanatics. All right. So I would have them go through that section, doing that until they can read the entire section with no help. And as they're doing that, they're developing a vocabulary of literally dozens and then hundreds of evolved words. And that's the basis for the jump up. Once they get done with 4 or 5 chapters in any given book, they're generally reading the book. So in this case, when I gave it to a 10-year-old, by the time she's 12, it took 2 years. Remember, same book. Her mom, she found the second universal thing. Her mom with a master's degree can't find, and never had a parent find the second one. First one's easy. So then, as 12-year-old girls will do in these situations, she'll point to the universal theme and go, "Mom, it's right there." And the mom's like, "I can't believe I missed it." I said, in this situation, your 12-year-old daughter can comprehend better than you can. And she's dyslexic, and you're the one with a master's degree. Did I do my job? In which the mom said yes, because now her daughter's way ahead of everybody. So the key thing is you have to focus on their area of extreme interest and ability. That's their speciality, whatever it is. But to answer your question, what is dyslexia? Now we're going to get to it. The second step is you can't ask a dyslexic to go from the general to the specific. So you cannot ask a dyslexic, what effect did Martin Luther King's famous "I Have a Dream" speech have on the 1960 civil rights movement? It's like asking us to grab fog. We can't do it. But if you ask a specific to a general question, what compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous "I Have a Dream" speech? We can just look up in his biography on the answer. And that answer will give us another question. We answer that, which will give us another question. Here's the key thing, it forces the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. So again, it forces the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. Okay, so let's go and examine that even closer. If you go to a dyslexic, here's how we answer your question, what is dyslexia really? If you ask a dyslexic in your speciality, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed? Key question, but with little to no organization. Again, in your speciality, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization? We're going to say yes. So again, we have to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. So we start off with a speciality, our book, our audio book. We follow that with teaching specific to the general, and then word analysis followed by articulation. You do that for the intervention period until we're at grade level, and we're going to be fine. You try, while we're still way behind, you try to do what schools do, which is, instead of one book that we're really interested in, we do a whole bunch of books. Okay. Instead of teaching us from the specific to the general so we can organize our brain, they teach from the general to the specific, which is we can't grasp onto anything. And they certainly don't teach word analysis followed by articulation. So essentially, the public schools are essentially doing everything they can to make a dyslexic fail, but not on purpose. They're not doing it on purpose. I'm going to go back to the research. Here's dyslexia again. The back part of the normal brain has massive neural activity. The dyslexic has next to none. The schools are set up to teach to the majority, to the 80+% who are not dyslexic. So let me give you an example of this, or we will accommodate you thing, which schools say all the time. For me, the sport that I'm horrible at is basketball. I'm horrible. What sport are you really, really bad at?
Me? Baseball, because I never played baseball in my life. So
But is there something that you're not because you haven't played it, you just stink at it? Some sport that you know
Football.
you're bad at.
I'm horrible at football.
Is that American football or European football?
European soccer, right?
Okay, so
Yeah.
soccer.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we were to accommodate you, we're going to get you $1,000 cleats, shoes. We're going to get you a $500 socket, but we're going to get you the best equipment out there. And we're going to make make the other kids wear you stuff from Walmart.
It
Are
doesn't
you
matter.
still go? It doesn't matter. You're going to still lose, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's because just physically, your body is not, you physically and mentally are not designed for soccer. But what if I were to tell your soccer or your version of football? If I were to tell you your economic life is dependent on your ability to be a good soccer/football player,
Then I become one. No problem.
yeah, well, no, can you see? No matter how hard you work, you would probably end up homeless.
No, I don't agree with that. I think everyone can learn anything. It's just a matter of time and practice.
And that's the misconception about dyslexia. Just work harder. Okay, let's go back to the science. Go and do really good on the back part of the brain where the gen ed student has this massive neural activity and we got next to nothing.
Yeah, but you're comparing a physical activity to a mental one, and as you already proved, everyone the brain of a dyslexic person is different. You cannot. I don't think this example applies.
Well, let me give you another example. Because this is just how I found people can relate to this better.
Unless just conclude. Unless you're comparing a person who is perfectly fit with a person who has some physical disability when it comes to playing soccer, maybe then it's a good comparison, I would say.
Let me give you another example. When you were going to school, did you ever meet a boy who was he was average or above average in height, but just extraordinarily skinny?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Now I want you to imagine that boy, and I want you to imagine, let's assume he's 16. And let's say we have a 16-year-old Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we put them on a weightlifting program. Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to develop very rapidly because his body's designed to do that. And no matter how hard the 16-year-old really skinny kid does, he's not going to ever come anywhere close because it's just genetically that his body's not meant to do this. Does that make sense?
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like telling that 16-year-old skinny kid, your economic value is dependent on how big you get being a weightlifter. And no matter what he does, no matter what accommodations you give him, the best weightlifting coach, you spend $10 million on the best equipment, the best instruction, the best, the best everything else. Arnold Schwarzenegger's eating at McDonald's and he's still going to develop so much fast because that's what his body is designed for.
I know that example makes a lot of sense, but I'm pretty sure Arnold Schwarzenegger took some steroids. But let's take that out of the equation. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, but even if he didn't, he would still be this huge big guy.
Yeah.
Not as big, but yeah.
Genetics play a huge role for sure.
Yeah. So what I'm just trying to say is the school's idea that we'll accommodate this doesn't work until we get the kid to grade level. So let me give you an example. I have full permission to tell her story. Her name was Kimberly, homeschooling mom. We met last December 2024. She spent $700 getting her kids tested by the state of Ohio. Her son Reed, who's 5th grade, 10 years old, reading at the mid-second grade level, he scored a 190 on that test. If he was in special education in public school for the rest of the school year, they expected him to increase by 2.8 points to a 192.8. Grade level on that test was 211. She worked with Reed half an hour a day, 3 days a week. I worked with her for half an hour a week. He didn't increase by 2.8 points. He increased by 20 points. So over a 3 standard deviation increase, 1 point below average for grade level. So what happened? Reed's friends came to him and said, "We want you in public school to be with us socially." So he and his younger brother decided to go to public school. His younger brother's not dyslexic, did just fine. If Reed did that in January, he would have been placed in special ed, away from his friends. He would have been extremely frustrated. But because of what his mother accomplished, he went into mainstream general education classes, and he's doing just fine. His mom solved in less than 6 months what specialized schools take years to do. That's how powerful this method is.
Hell yeah, man. I'm impressed. Russell, let's take a quick break. Let's start. I need to roll the sponsor commercial, and then we'll be right back. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, see you in a bit, everyone. Parents, have you been searching for an app that's both fun and educational for your kids? I've got something exciting to share with you today. It's called FunTastic Plus. FunTastic Plus is a free app where education meets entertainment, designed specially for children ages 2 to 12. It's built by experts, completely ad-free and totally safe, so you can feel confident handing your phone or tablet to your little ones. Inside the app, kids will find a world of engaging content, their favorite cartoons, audiobooks and songs to spark imagination, educational games that make learning fun, and all of that to keep them entertained while supporting their development. FunTastic Plus is available on iPhones and iPads and even works offline, so whether you are on a road trip, flying, or just at home, your kids will always have something to enjoy. So if you're ready to give your kids a space that's both fun and educational, download now FunTastic Plus for free on the App Store. FunTastic Plus is a safe and ad-free educational platform for kids. Link on the description below. All right, and we're back. Thank you so much, our sponsor FunTastic Plus, for being our channel sponsor. Go check it out, guys. It's a very fun app. All right, Russell. Thank you so much for waiting. We're back. Going back to your method, I would like to ask you: is it the case? Like, do you think the fact that you are yourself a dyslexic that made the whole creation of this process possible?
That's the only way it was possible, because what happened is when I was in the late 90s, and I wanted to know how the government worked. It's not some theory I wanted to know. Yeah, it's like, how do you take a bill
I don't
and
think
make it a
anyone
law?
knows, man, how the
Oh,
government.
no, no, I got to see it right at the high level. So what happened is I applied for the New York State Assembly internship program. And I go in there and I said, here's my neuropsych evaluation. I have a first grade reading and writing level. And they looked at this and said, this is not going to work. So they got a committee together, and they decided to they pulled me out of the legislative office building, and they put me in the majority leader's program and counsel's office that ran the assembly day to day. Why? Because they had 3 administrative assistants who could help me with my horrific writing, because some things had to be written out. And it was a godsend. Then they went right up to the speaker's office, and they got me a brand new computer. All right. They really went completely all out, and it made it work. Why was it so much better? Because in that office, they didn't deal with undergraduates for the past 20, 30 years. They deal with grad students, which is uh, a real member position. So I was there to see the whole thing work right at the ground floor. For the academic portion, we had to do a major research project. And the standard accommodation back then was I never wrote research papers. I gave very long, very detailed oral presentations. And before people think I got off easy, typically the professors made it so onerous, it's made it so long. They said, anybody else want to do an oral presentation instead of write the 20, 30-page paper? And nobody ever took it up. They didn't want anything to do with a long presentation with a long, hard question and answer session. So I did that. They recommended 15 credits of A minus. Okay. And it's not absolute, but the university is expected to essentially accept the recommendation or maybe make a small adjustment. Well, that didn't happen in my case. They sent it back to the political science department at the State University of New York at Buffalo. And they look at this and they said, we don't like these accommodations. So here's your 15 credits of F. Can you imagine what that did to my GPA? Instead of 15 credits of A minus, I got 15 credits of F. And at that point, I decided I'm done with this. I'm done with the discrimination. I want to know to teach myself how to read and write so I can share others. And that's what started me on my journey.
So this whole event of discrimination is what pushed you to create the method.
Yes.
All right. Well,
That changed everything. When
whatever.
I tell people that they literally can't believe it, but we don't like your accommodations. So here's your 15 credits of F. Now, who were these people making these accommodations? Well, it was the director of the internship program who did that for 15 years. It was the professor in residence who was a senior professor at Syracuse University for 10 to 15 years. It was the the right hand man of the assembly majority leader. All right. Plus other people in it was like a whole committee that got together to make this decision. And they kind of listened to the guy who's been teaching the program for 10, 15 years. The guy's like, if he can't write a research paper, we can do the oral presentation, but I'm not going to make it easy on him. And then when they're like, well, he has to write some things. Then they're like, well, we'll put him in the majority leaders program at counsel's office with 3 administrative assistants. And working with them, we got it through because they had, a decent amount of downtime during parts of the session. And they thought that these were reasonable accommodations. But then the political science department at the State University of New York in Buffalo looked at it and said, we don't like this, so here's your F grade.
Damn.
And it's still there in my transcript 27 years later.
Hey, it takes what it takes. While you're sharing your story, it remind me of Jeffrey Katzenberg. Have you heard about that guy?
Yes, I know about him intimately. He was the one who revitalized the golden age of Disney. And what few people realized about is while he was at Disney, he Toy Stories was in the doldrum, and he said, "Go listen to watch two movies. One was the Defiant Ones, the other one was 48 Hours." And with that, they said, "Oh, it's a buddy story," and that's what made it so successful. But when he did Lion King, that was the last movie he did there. That represents the pinnacle of Disney's hand-drawn animation. After that, it all went to CGI, computer graphics, and he kept doing hand-drawn animation until it almost put DreamWorks out of business. They had to literally go to Paul Allen a couple of times for massive financial injections, or they could have gone out of business.
Yeah, it's crazy. But isn't he the guy who actually founded DreamWorks? Because if I remember correctly, there was like someone at Disney was not being appreciated enough, so they decided to quit the company and create his own called DreamWorks, and that's when he became massively successful. Isn't that this guy?
No, not quite the case. What actually happened is there was when Eisner was brought into Disney, the board had a concern because he never ran a business on his own. He was the president. He was the creative guy. So there was a lawyer called Frank Welsh they brought in to be the business guy, to be the chief operating officer. And then he died in a freak helicopter accident because he liked to climb mountains.
Oh my
So
god.
what happened is Jeffrey Katzenberg believed he should become the number 2 executive. But as you would find when he eventually ran DreamWorks as his own public company, he's not ready to be the CEO. For example, I think it was Shrek 2 or 3. He said he told Wall Street we're going to ship like 55 million DVDs, and they ended up doing like 40 million. And they came back and later said, we actually listened to what you said the first time. He was never really that good at being a CEO on his own. He was a natural number 2. So Michael Eisner wouldn't give him that job. So he's sitting there literally on a boat, and he decided to go into business with Steven Spielberg, and there was a rich guy who ran a record company. I forget his last name. But they decided to go in and to create DreamWorks to essentially give Jeffrey a job.
Damn.
How do I know this? Because I've taught this several times, and
Let me guess. It's in the Disney book that you showed us earlier.
oh no, the
No?
Walt passed away in '65. That comes. There are two books from there. One is called Disney War, and the other one was a book on DreamWorks, and they both capture it from different angles.
I see. Damn. That's so interesting. You know so much. Russell, I need to ask you, how many people are dyslexic right now in the world, if you had to give a percentage?
I'm going my field hasn't really nailed that down perfectly, which is kind of weird with all the research done on this. But dyslexia is supposed to represent the absolute worst case for reading and writing. Writing is called dysgraphia. And generally you're probably looking at around 5 to 10%.
Around 5
If
to
you
10%. Okay.
if you were looking at including things like ADD and ADHD, you could push that to 15 to 20%. From a treatment perspective, ADD and ADHD are just kind of like mild cases of dyslexia.
Mild case. Oh, that's interesting. Mild cases of dyslexia. And with that said, is it possible to take any pill to help alleviate the symptoms and make it easier for dyslexic people to read or learn how to read and write better?
What I showed you in the beginning, the
Yeah.
basic sentences get you to about end of second, beginning third grade level. What I showed you next was basically how we do the reading. And yes, so what I've done is with my coursework, the next thing I do is I show you what I call the half circle: hero, universal theme, villain. All right. And from there, I show you how to do the most basic body paragraphs.
What I meant is if there's any pill that you can take, any meds.
Oh, no. This is strictly repetition.
Okay.
I developed it's less than 10, sorry, it's less than 6 big steps to take kids from I can't write a sentence all the way to writing body paragraphs at the advanced high school, beginning college level.
Got it. I know that from at least that's what I hear, right? When it comes to any genetic difference that all of us humans have. Let's take ADHD for example. One narrative that I often hear is that ADHD exists because it had a function in the past. It was useful somehow for us humans to survive, and because of that, this gene has been passed throughout generations and generations. How it helped our ancestors, I don't know. That's actually
Well, let me give you an example. Have you ever watched Shark Tank?
yeah. It's pretty
How
entertaining.
many of there are 6 sharks? How many are dyslexic?
Oh, I don't know. How would I know? I don't know. How many? Half of them?
3 out of the 6.
Okay.
Barbara, Damien, and Mr. Wonderful
But
are all dyslexic
how do you know that they came out?
because they said it on the show numerous times.
Okay.
They kept no secret of it, and so dyslexia is overrepresented in the more creative, more advanced thinking realms because I showed you with the front part of the brain, we have 2.5 times the neuroactivity. I just found a way to tap into that to solve the reading and writing issues, but also I've used that same approach. As I mentioned, I was the #1 guest on our system pod match. I have literally gone and been on podcasts for C-level business leaders. Like, how do I come up with solid business decisions in under 5 minutes? Working with AI to assist. It's like, here's the process. I adapt it from what I teach dyslexics. I was on one where for one, are you a wine drinker at all?
No, I'm more into beer.
Okay. Well, she had a very sophisticated way of trying to break down wines and what goes to what and how to identify everything. It required a massive amount of vocabulary.
Mhm.
And so I said, okay, here's how I teach this to dyslexics. Now here's how Gen Ed adults can use this, become far more effective at remembering complicated words that they need to remember for her course. So what you'll find is generally the vast majorities of innovations in education start off with dyslexia, and then they move into the rest of the education realm.
That's so interesting. Is there any link between dyslexia and high IQ?
Typically, the science on this is not as good as I would like to see. I saw some studies that suggest, and notice that I chose the word suggest. You could be looking at a 10 to 15 point IQ bump. But that's, again, that was suggestive, not proven.
I mean, it would make sense, right? Because I mean, who am I to say that it would make sense? I don't know, but but if you look at let's take Beethoven, he was deaf, right?
No, I think that was Mozart. I don't remember.
You know
I think
what?
that was Mozart.
I don't
I'm
want
not
to
sure.
spread. I don't want to spread misinformation. So, which famous famous pianist was deaf? There you go. Ludwig van Beethoven. But you know where I'm going with that, right? Like,
Beethoven Smith, yes. Oh yeah, yeah. There's interesting anecdotes of how he supposedly, like put his ear next to the piano to feel a vibration or something,
oh,
or
really?
those are some things that I've heard. I don't want to spread misinformation, and that may be, but those are just things that came up in conversations over the years.
Hmm. But my point is, for example, I know that a lot of autistic people, they're also super intelligent because they have this ability of hyper focusing on something and learn a bunch about
Mhm.
it. So it seems that the body and the mind has a way of compensating. No matter, like, if something's out of tune here, something else will go a little bit higher. You know what I mean? And it's very interesting how the mind works. As far as I know, don't quote me that. Don't quote me on that, guys. We know frighteningly little about the human brain. Psychology is not such as old of a field as we would imagine. It's less than 100 years old. I would guess, something like that. So I
Well, the thing is, we actually do know a tremendous amount about the brain. The problem is the brain is so incredibly complex. Like, let me give you an example. When I was studying the nervous system in a senior year in college, there was a SUNY distinguished professor for teaching, one of the very best teachers in the subject in the whole system. Taught at end of grad, beginning grad school, the overview of the entire system. And almost every class, somebody would ask her a question, and she said, "I don't know the answer to that." She said, even if you got your PhD in in her field, in the brain, even you couldn't even keep up with a small part of the brain because there's so much research going on. And she said it is so incredibly complex. Nobody can understand the entire brain.
so far.
No, no, even with that, what she was saying, even if you study at the PhD level, a small part of it, you can't keep up with all the research going on. It is not physically possible.
There's just too many. Just to clarify, guys, psychology is about 146 years old. That's nothing in human history. So I guess there's gonna be much more discoveries being made in the upcoming years, especially when the Neuralink is implanted in all of our brains. We're gonna be able to research more on that. Russell, what your take on that? Do you think it's a net positive or
Oh,
net?
I will never have it done. I will I don't feel like being I don't feel like being a Borg if you're a Star Trek fan.
Okay.
Not I use, like, for example, with ChatGPT, when they came out with the pro subscription last December of 2024, I bought it that day.
Hmm.
Little note for your listeners: Sam looked at it. This is just him being CEO of OpenAI. He said, "Well, if typical people are paying $20, we will increase the price by 10 times and we'll make money." And Sam is losing hundreds of millions a year on the pro subscription because people like me are on it all freaking day. Everything that I like, when you're using, you just put in something and it came back really fast. Okay. Or you did in Google, but you put in something like that, it comes back almost instantly. I use 5 Pro and it takes 10 minutes to do anything.
That's the way of doing it. I would love to have like precise answers that take 10 minutes of chat GPT to process. That sounds the ideal way of doing it, but 10 minutes is kind of long, man. I'm gonna be honest. I don't
I
know.
and how I handle that is I'll have one thing running online, then I'll have the Chat GPT app on my MacBook Air, and I'll have one thing running there, and then I'm doing something else until it pops up. Then I go back and I do the next step, and it runs for 10 minutes. And then when the other one pops up, I'd go back and do that, and then I'm going back doing the third
Oh
thing.
my. Well, under the same subscription, right? Or you need several ones?
Yes, no, that's the same subscription. I tried doing it 3 times, and it said no, but I could do one on
Ah,
the app, and I could do one online, and I just get vastly better answers, for doing the 10-minute thing. But to be honest with you, I look for precise things, and it's just gotten so much better. But even when O1 came out, as I said, O1 Pro, I think it started writing better than most people. That's what I read about when O3 Pro came out. But this new 5 Pro, I mean, darn, there are activities that I do with it where before I had to use O3 Pro, now I use 5 Thinking, and instead of taking 10, 15 minutes, it does it in like 3.
oh my god.
So when people think this new 5 model isn't so much better than it was before, it really is.
You know what I read recently, that a lot of papers are being published, papers that have been written by ChatGPT. And the thing is, ChatGPT is taking those papers when users want to write new papers. So it's a system that's feeding on itself. And
Oh, no, 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 that
it's not a
people have
thing?
gotten that over. Well, if you want to turn out half-baked stuff, let me give you an example. I'm writing my first book on Kimberly's experience, with her son Reed, her hopes, dreams, aspirations, what it was like, their defeats, what she did that 6 months, so other parents can replicate it. So I went. Where can I find a good ghostwriter? So I went to Fiverr, and they have a thing called Fiverr Choice, which is they rotate a few, but these are the very best ghostwriters. And I picked a mom with 3 kids in South Carolina.
Hmm.
I said, okay, this is my demographic. So I hired her. So instead of her sending me the standard questionnaire that every ghostwriter does, like, what do you want to do? How do you want to say it? All this stuff. I went to ChatGPT and I knocked out a draft of the book in one day. I just said, I'm blowing a day on this. I sent it to her. She sends back the first draft because that's all artificial intelligence at this point is good for. This is September of 2025. Is it's good for getting you that first draft. He rewrote it completely, looked nothing like what I sent her. And I did multiple deep research reports. This is what it should be. This is what it is. These are the questions. I did it meticulously. I had it planning for over 3 hours on 5 Pro. I'm sorry, O3 Pro at the time, before I even got to where I could start answering questions. All right. And then it spent so many more hours. We're talking 5 to 6 hours of compute
Hmm.
to get that draft. Okay. Then she gave me something back that was nothing like it at all.
But in a good
So
way or better way, you
oh, in
mean?
a so much better way.
Okay.
So what you need to what people think, oh, ChatGPT can write my paper. And what it does is when and anybody who's done this in high school or college or grad school understands, takes forever to get that first draft. That's what ChatGPT does. It gets you that first draft a lot faster. Then you need to turn it over to a senior human who will literally rip it apart and rewrite it. And then what I do when she got back for the second draft, I went for homeschooling. They actually have on Amazon Kindle, they have like a homeschooling section under dyslexia and under learning. And what I did is I did multiple deep research reports until I got a consolidated one on the 5 best-selling books on Amazon Kindle. And what do they have in common for homeschooling parents? And then I sent back about 15,000 words to say, Here's the editing that's suggested. You're the human. You don't like it, ignore it. If you like it, follow it or do whatever you want to with it. She loves the instructions. So then I paid her, I pay her for what we agreed to. And then for each time she does something, I pay her more money. Okay. Because it's just the right thing to do. So now she'll come back with a third edition. Then I found out I have to do one for parents and one for teachers. So I have a co-author, her name is Evelyn Whitebay. She was on the New York State Dyslexia Task Force, one of the most successful special ed teacher in New York State history. And so now she's adding things. And then we send it back to the ghostwriter. Okay. So ChatGPT helps with evaluating it. And I'm going to keep having it evaluate until it doesn't make much more sense. And at that point, I'll go and hire an editor because each time the editor looks at it, it's $600.
Yeah. But I'm gonna be honest,
Okay.
I don't think we are that far off from the future where the ChatGPT will be able to write the whole book, actually, or the whole
No, oh no, we are way away from that.
Really?
Yeah.
How many
because
years do you think? Because
I
this
don't
technology
think
is growing exponentially, Russell.
I know it's growing exponentially, but I think that, and just so you know, I teach people the craft of research, which was designed to get students to do PhD level at the University of Chicago. Concept, problem, solution, where the solution students actually, the reader learns something substantial. You know that I show you how to prompt engineer your brain. You can use any AI anytime and be very successful with it. What I'm telling you is that and this is what they're coming out in the data. What Stanford came out with a report on this a couple of weeks ago. What they're finding is new kids, right after college, they're getting hurt by this. The CEO of Anthropic thinks in 5 years half the new college grad jobs will be disappeared. All right, but those of us who are senior that are really good at what we're doing, I'm 52 now, so I've been doing this for decades. It is making us much more productive, 10x sometimes. And we're going to make so much more money because we know what to do. We can make connections and see some changes that need to be there that it just doesn't see. Okay? We're here to guide it. All right. I don't think it's ever going to replace us. It's just going to make those of us who are senior, who know what we're doing, tremendously more successful. And the problem is with the kids coming out of college is they're going to have a hard time becoming senior because who's going to want to pay them 50, 100 grand a year to do things that I can have deep research do?
No one would pay them. We had a guest 2 days ago on the podcast, Landon Shumway, and that's his whole thing. That's all he thinks about, how this AI revolution will be and how the consequences of it and what we should do in order to adapt. And his recommendation is we need to all become entrepreneurs. All of those kids coming out of college, they should stop trying to get the job, stop trying to apply to the big companies, just become an entrepreneur, because all of those companies, they will rely on AI. They won't necessarily hire a lot of people. So that was
and he's absolutely wrong.
okay.
And this is where we can have different conversations. But let me give you an example. All right, we're still going to need people. AI is not going to replace people. People that know AI and can use it effectively and become vastly more productive will replace people who can't. So let me give you an example. I'm going back to Walt Disney's biography, The Triumph of the American Imagination, this 1,000-page monster. I want you to imagine a student who's gone through that, who's gone through the craft of research. They know context, problem, solution. And they go in, they intern for Disney for several years. Just so you know why the employees are so great at Disney, they're high-end college kids cleaning toilets. It takes 3 years of that before they really treat you seriously. So I want you to imagine they're going in and they're putting up a new hamburger stand, for example. And the person who I've trained could say, you know what? There are two universal themes that Walt uses to go ahead and create the original Disney magic. I'm going to call it classic Walt. This is what he could have, these are some ideas he could have come up with for this. Now, some of those ideas could be a hit. It might be worth $500,000. It might be worth $10 million. that person keeps their job and they use AI to just become drastically more competitive, more drastically more productive. But they can see some connections that AI, I don't think ever will. All right. So like when I'm using it, okay, for how to improve writing, one example I had was I would have people find a quote after answering hero, universal theme, villain. We'd find a quote, would take, and from that, they'll take a reason why that happened, turn that reason to a simple universal theme, and they would find a quote. To jump them from fifth grade to advanced high school, I had the idea, let's do two quotes. And then I used AI to say, how do I combine the is required for writing body paragraphs for the New York State High School reading and writing test. It's called the Regents exam. And how do I incorporate the craft of research? And it came up with these are the requirements. And I said, tune it this way, come up with this. So once I have the two quotes, there are 5 other steps, and it basically writes itself. Massive advancement. Okay. But I had to guide it. I had to see the connections. And then it did all the grunt work for me.
I see.
Because I'm going to give you a little hint. Most people are not cut out to be entrepreneurs. I
That's
know. I've done it.
that's the thing.
I actually,
That's
I
what I
actually,
think.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I went to Rensselaer Polytech Institute and I finished their concentration in entrepreneurship. I studied this at the University of Chicago under Professor Schrager, one of the top 5 professors teaching it anywhere in the country. All right. Very few people are set up for this. But if you go and you become an expert in an area, like I showed you with Disney, you understand the craft of research, context problem solution, which I teach. That's how I get kids to go. I drop context to 9 and 10-year-olds, problem to middle school, solution for high school kids. And the solution is so powerful. You could be assigned Romeo and Juliet, and the student writes a paper that is original at the graduate level, completely original, something a teacher might see once or twice in their career. All right. So then they go and they practice in college, and then they go out in the real world and they can be incredibly productive because they're guiding the AI. They'll be able to guide the agent. They know how to do this. Those people are going to be incredibly well paid.
Those kids that you help, are they in regular schools, or are there any schools specially created for dyslexic people? Is that a thing?
I'll give you an example. Remember, I kept talking about Wharton Gillingham?
Hmm.
There's a school give you an example. The oldest school is the Gowell School, where I worked with their headmaster for years to develop my original program. They're celebrating their 100th anniversary next year. A more typical example is the Windward School in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. They have a 98% success rate of taking you from your typical school and then working with you for a time, then sending you back thoroughly prepared. 98% successful. 75,000 a year for 4 to 5 years.
Oh, okay. There's a price. Okay.
There's a very big price, and those teachers are paid horribly. You're like, ow, because it's 4 students per teacher or 5 students per teacher. Where in public school, you're 20 to 35 per teacher.
All right. Well, if you have the money, you have everything. Oh man, that's also the same on the sports. We had a specialist, Alexander Hutchinson, Dr. Alexander Hutchinson. He said the best Olympic people are the richest ones because they had the money to support their training, their food, everything, and yeah, capitalism, baby.
There was a show that was popular when I was in high school, college age. It was called Beverly Hills 90210. And in the script, this always stuck with me. The character playing Brandon, the star of the show, one of the stars of the show, was supposedly really good at hockey. And when he was a kid, coach came to his parents when they wanted to see about him doing this competitively. They said, "Do you want a hockey player or a son? Because you can't have both."
Oh my God.
Because these kids are homeschooled. They practice all the time. It's incredibly expensive. I mean, Michael Jordan, arguably the finest basketball player who ever lived, was benched in high school sometimes. How did he become the best? Not only was it his own genetic gift, he just worked harder than everybody else.
There's also this aspect for sure, for sure, for sure.
It's a combination of the two. When you look at baseball, one example I love is look at A-Rod, Alexander Rodriguez. Not only was he one of the best baseball players who ever played that position, but look at what he's doing in business now. All right. And how did he do that? Naturally, very bright, excellent genetics. But also, he simply works harder than just about everybody else.
I think there's a Japanese quote that goes, if you know the way of man, I don't know the quote, I'm gonna butcher it. But it was something along those lines. If you know how to do one thing successfully, you know how to do all things successfully. Something like that. You guys correct me in the comments below. And maybe they found it. Those guys found it. Anyway, Russell, I would like to thank you so much for today's show. It was really a pleasure. A very interesting topic. Do you have any final remarks?
Well, if people want to learn how to work with me, the simplest thing to do is just go to my website, dyslexiaclasses.com. That's plural with an S, dyslexiaclasses.com. There's a button there that says download free report. Click on that, answer a few questions. We'll send you a report, the 3 reasons your child's having trouble in school due to dyslexia and how to get past it. And then you can go and set up a time to work on Calendly for 30 minutes to work with me at no cost. And what we do is we discuss things with you and your child. I ask them some questions. They're very skeptical at the beginning. After I ask them a couple of questions, like, how did you know that about me? I say, you think you're the only one? I went through what you went through, but my reading and writing are worse than yours now. Prove it. Well, your mom said your report is your reading and writing at the 2nd grade level. When I was in college, I was reading and writing at the 1st grade level. And then I went to law school and I solved it. And then after we talked, they're like, yeah, this is how I want to overcome my concerns. Then I talked to the parents. We work with parents on a yearly basis. And, with Kimberly, she solved her son's concerns in 6 months. Now we're working on bringing his writing skills up to the advanced high school level. He's in 6th grade. Usually we can make a lot of progress or solve things within a year, if not usually within 2. Not the 4 or 5 of a private school. And no, we're affordable and we're not asking for house money.
Beautiful. Perfect. Russell, thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure. Guys, don't forget to... Oh, by the way, I found the quote. The quote is, if you know the way broadly, you will see it. You will see it in everything. It's from a Japanese swordsman called Miyamoto Musashi. Yeah, that's all I want to say. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Don't forget to comment. Leave a comment. Let me today's episode. I want to know everything that you thought about today's episode. Leave a comment. See you next time, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Check out now the Brewcast store, Explore store, filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with Brewcast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Buy now at brew-cast.com/store. Again, that's brew-cast.com/store. Link on the description below. Be a Brewcast model and get free stuff. We'd love to see how you and your loved ones enjoy Brewcast. Snap a picture of yourself, your family, your friends, or even your pets wearing Brewcast merch, or watching an episode of the show, and send it to us and become part of Brewcast. We will feature you and your pictures at the end of every episode, just like the ones you're seeing on the screen right now. You can upload your pictures at brew-cast.com/contact or tag us on social media. Alright everyone, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye bye.